Hello and welcome. Thank you for making Locked On Women's Basketball your first listen every day. We're free and available on all platforms. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go check out prizepicks.com and use promo code NBA, or go to your app store to download the app today. PrizePicks is a daily fantasy made easy. All right, on today's show, we are back. I know you missed us. We're going to discuss the WNBA draft lottery, which just went down on Sunday night. We're going to catch up with the WNBA, take a look at some of the recent coaching news, and they did release a 2022 schedule. And last but not least, we have a special interview with A'ja Wilson of the Las Vegas Aces about her partnership with Dick's Sporting Goods. We're going to get into it all here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Happy Monday, guys. Welcome to another episode of Locked On Women's Basketball. I'm your co-host, Crina Mustafa. It's been way too long. I think it's been like 2 months since we recorded our last episode.
It's been a while.
Yeah. So for people who don't remember me, I usually cover all things New York Liberty and Phoenix Mercury over at Venus Sports. And I'm joined by my co-host, Bradshaw Furlong. Bradshaw does several things in the world of basketball, but please tell new listeners or listeners who have forgotten us what you do.
I am a story editor at TSN for American listeners. That's our version of ESPN here in Canada. And I'm the co-site expert at BehindTheBuckPass.com. And I also co-host this podcast with Kraken. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, pretty cool. All right. Before we begin, make sure you subscribe to Locked On Women's Basketball wherever you listen to podcasts. We're on YouTube as well, so please go subscribe on YouTube. Look at us. You're seeing our lovely faces. Every follow, every subscription helps us continue to put out daily content. All right. So Sunday night, lottery. Exciting times. It came after an overtime game between Michigan and I think it was Baylor. And Bradshaw, we'll start with the number 4 pick. Because originally I was going to say, okay, we can talk about whoever you'd like, but I think you'd like to talk about the number 4 pick because your Dallas Wings have got the 4th pick in the lottery, which is amazing. You guys can see his reactions, how happy he is. So please tell our viewers how you feel.
I remember how, if anybody else remembers this, but I remember a few months ago when we were talking about getting to the playoffs and like, oh, will the Wings get in? And we were talking about, the race for the last playoff spots, and the Sparks were one of them. And I was like, they got to lose as many games as possible to improve that draft pick that I know the Wings are getting. And I mean, they only got the 4th best odds. They ended up with number 4, and it was like statistically that was what was going to happen. But hey, I had some hope going in that they might, shoot up the draft board and get the number 1 pick. They could get Ryan Howard, but no, they're at number 4, and that's fine. They have number 4 and number 6, which is pretty cool. So they got the best of both worlds. They made the playoffs, got some playoff experience, and had a lottery pick. I remember when the Wings made that trade before last year's draft. They acquired LA's pick coming into this year's draft. People are like, whoa, why'd they do that? Why would they give up a pick this year and then take a chance on the pick next year? Well, this is why. I guess they had an idea that, hey, maybe the Sparks aren't going to be very good. And even if they were, they'd still have their own pick and they'd still have a chance at the lottery if they missed the playoffs. So I think it worked out pretty well. They have number 4 and number 6. I'm kind of excited. This is supposed to be a better draft than last year. I mean, the Wings know how disappointing the draft was from last year. Their 2 top picks didn't play a whole lot, but they're also rookies, and rookies don't necessarily play right away anyway. So hopefully they get more production out of Charlie and a walk next year. But I'm looking forward to seeing who they take this year with 2 top 6 picks.
Yeah, and not getting the top picks is not necessarily always a bad thing, as we know. Sometimes you can get really good rookies deep in the draft. So, it's obviously number 4.
You know all about that, don't you?
Yes, I do. I'm an expert on it. But at number 3, the Atlanta Dream, who are going to have an interesting offseason, to say the least, I think. Yeah, exactly. They're kind of rethinking things right now, rebuilding maybe. They got a lot of free agents, things to figure out. I think Renee Montgomery as the representative was very interesting and kind of funny. Whenever she's on TV, I know people have their opinions about that, but she's really hoping for that number 1, but they are number 3. I think that's reasonable. I think that's where people expected them to land. Number 2, we have the Indiana Fever,
I feel bad for the Fever.
Yeah.
Feel real bad for the Fever.
Who I think they got a little bit messed over, screwed over, whatever you want to say, after the season they had. And they got number 2. I don't know. What do you think about that? Because I know some people were saying like Melissa Smith could be drafted at number 2, and they're afraid Indiana's going to mess her up and things like that. So how do we feel about Indiana falling to 2?
I mean, like I don't know how much we can put on like Indiana and Kaiser last year. Like maybe Kaiser just wasn't the right pick. I mean, everyone was surprised that Kaiser went number 4. Everyone was shocked that she went that high in the draft, including me. I'm a West Virginia fan, and I was shocked that she went that high. I was happy. I was super happy to see her go that high. Super happy that she got all the endorsements that she did. But how much can we put on her? But then I did complain that they didn't really play her a ton down the stretch when the team was bad, and they just needed to could have just played her, and like they weren't winning games. Just play your young players and see what you got. So I mean, like I said, I feel a little bad for the Fever they didn't get number 1, but Melissa Smith is like still a contender for the number 1 pick. Like she can still go number 1, still get Ryan Howard could fall number 2. They're gonna get one of the 2 really good players at the top of this draft. It's just about developing them properly. And I mean, there's a little bit of a concern that they might not do the right thing and mess them up a little bit. But I trust them that they can at least not screw this up. They can at least do the right thing here. I mean, maybe they do what they did last year, just go fully off the board and take someone number 2 that no one was expecting. But I feel pretty confident that they won't screw this up.
Okay. You heard it here, folks. Bradshaw is pretty confident that
I have no reason to be confident in this. No reason whatsoever. But
just gotta keep things interesting. That's all.
Yes, absolutely.
And that number 1, which
because
is
of course
maybe surprising, but the Washington Mystics got the number 1 pick. Natasha Cloud was their representative. Yeah, can't speak today. She was there to represent them. There, I'll go the easier route of saying that. And she said something on the broadcast that like particularly stuck with me, where she said they have their core and it's just a matter of needing those like little puzzle pieces. And I think we saw a glimpse of that when Elena came back for like that small period of time last season. And, Coach Thibault was talking about Elena Del Don's recovery as well, saying it's going very well. I'm curious because like you have the past and the future, I guess, in this scenario. And how important do you think she is going to be, like whether or not she's going to play, like whether she's just there as a voice, or maybe she does come back and play and maybe kind of mentor whatever rookie they decide to bring in?
I hope she comes back. I mean, obviously, like I hope she comes back. I think everyone's hoping she does, but I guess it's kind of what's best for her long-term health, like not just for her playing career, but life after basketball. Because I mean, every athlete always talks about there's always a life after whatever sport you play. This sport you're playing isn't forever. As much as Super and Diana Taurasi would like to have us believe that basketball is forever, the way they've been playing.
Diana Taurasi's playing for another 10 years, Bradshaw. Okay, I don't know what you're talking about.
As much as they want us to have us believe that they will be playing forever, it's not. And I think you have to look at it. I think she has to look at it as, okay, what's best for my long-term health after basketball? And I mean, I think she can do a bit of both. I think if she comes back, I mean, they would love to have her, obviously. And I think it was interesting that Natasha Cloud said, we have our core group and is adding the pieces in there. Because, I mean, whoever they take number 1 is certainly going to be part of that core group once they come in. No matter if it's Melissa Smith or Ryan Howard, it doesn't matter. They're going to be part of that core group. Like they are the core at that point. They're going to be one of the prime members of the core. And hopefully, I mean, it's just kind of cool with the Mystics, at least. But it also didn't surprise me. Like I saw the once you saw the top 4, you're like, okay, I think the Mystics are going to do pretty well here because they're going to. I didn't know they were going to jump up, but like it would have been. It's interesting that they got number 1 after like, oh, we might lose our franchise player to injury, but now we might get a new franchise player in the draft. It's interesting. But yeah, I think this will be really, really positive for the Mystics after the tough couple years they've been through.
Yeah, well,
after coming off a championship a few years ago, of course. Tough couple of years after coming off a championship.
Yeah, they're like Warriors fans, who've
This is essentially what that is. This is what we're seeing, except Elena Del Don is better than Klay Thompson.
Yeah. We both agree.
And hopefully Ryan Howard's better than James Wiseman. No disrespect to James Wiseman, but a little bit.
Just a little. All right. In a moment, we're going to continue kind of catching up with the WNBA again. But first, we're going to hear from our friends over at Truebill. So, Bradshaw, did you know why free trials renew without your consent?
No.
Well, it's a business scam that is actually out to get you. And so if you don't want to let greedy corporations pocket your money, you'll download Truebill to take control of your subscriptions. It's a new app that helps you identify and stop paying for subscriptions you don't need, want, or simply forgot about. And on average, people can save up to $720 a year with Truebill. And, you know, the reason for all this is because companies make subscriptions so hard to cancel, Truebill just makes it incredibly simple. You just need to link your accounts and it will cancel your unwanted subscriptions in one tap. And your Truebill concierge is there when you need them to cancel unwanted subscriptions, so you don't have to. It has over 2 million users, and it's helped save them over $100 million. So if you don't want to fall for subscription scams, start canceling today at truebill.com/lockedonnba. Let them know we sent you. So go to truebill.com/lockedonnba. It could save you thousands a year. All right. Thanks for listening to Locked On Women's Basketball, and make sure to catch more episodes throughout the week on Wednesdays and Fridays. Now we're going to move into the second part of our show, and we're going to catch up with the WNBA a little bit because it's true. We have been gone for a little bit now, but it seems like WNBA Mondays are back. The past couple of weeks, things have been happening again on Monday, which at this point is just too weird to ignore. But we'll start with the coaching spots that are open right now. So as we heard a couple of weeks ago, the New York Liberty parted ways with Coach Walt Hopkins after 2 seasons where he had a 14-40 record with the team. However, the Liberty did make the playoffs for the first time this season since 2017.
Just barely.
You know what? Facts are facts, Bradshaw. Okay.
Try as they might in the second half of that season, they still made the playoffs. As hard as they tried to miss them, they still made them.
Oh man, I missed this. I missed the slander. So we'll start with him. There were some rumors indicating that he didn't have as good as a relationship with the vets. But he did develop the rookies, and I think ultimately that's what he was there for, to just help develop those younger players. But you know, this team isn't getting younger now. Like, they were one of the youngest teams, but their players are starting to become more experienced. My thoughts on this, because I saw like a bunch of mixed reactions, because there was one side where they were like, okay, they just made the playoffs, so why are we not at least trying this out? And the other side was that good riddance, we need somebody new. And I think I'm okay with moving on. You know, I did see the side of, okay, let's let him stick it out for a little bit. But I also think that I want to be a champion. So I'm okay with it. And honestly, with the list of people that are out there.
And we'll get to one of them shortly.
Yes, we will. We will get to one of them shortly. And so with the list of people that are out there, I am totally okay with this. Bradshaw, what are your thoughts?
I think it is interesting that the two standpoints you looked at it from, where, you know, we just made the playoffs, let's see how far we can go with this, and, you know, oh, like, you know, good riddance, he's gone, and, you know, like, but he still developed the young players and all that. He had a bad first season, but that's obviously, like, that was good, that was expected. They had, like, I don't know how many, I forget how many rookies they had on that team. They had like 9 rookies at least, maybe less than that, but they were expected to lose last season. That were not going to be a good team, and they did. They lost quite a bit. This season they started out relatively well, but I remember at our midway show of that season, at the midway point of that season, I asked you, I was like, "Are you concerned about this?" There are a bunch of reasons why they could fall off in the second half. They have a point differential that does not support where their record is. They're turning the ball over a lot. They're shooting a ton of threes, but they're not making a ton of threes. They're allowing a lot of threes. And we saw them fall off in the second half as like we almost all expected them to. So it was almost like, okay, this team is expected to not contend, but they were expected to make the playoffs this past season. They did, but they didn't look good doing it. So it made sense. It's like, okay, you had 2 seasons now. You haven't shown they've showed improvement, but they still weren't very good last season. No, again, no disrespect to your team. They were better than last season, but it was hard to be worse than last season. Yeah. But it was good that he developed the young players, and that's a positive. That's a feather in his cap. But that's not what the Liberty want anymore. So it makes sense that if they're not looking to develop the young players anymore and they want to actually compete for a playoff spot and be a good team next year, not just, hey, we made the last playoff spot by the skin of our neck and we just barely got in. It makes sense they want to make a change.
Yeah.
For you, this is a question for you in particular. Did you see it coming before? Like, I know you said there were rumors, but like, were you shocked at all when it like actually came out?
I was surprised. Like, I actually was surprised because I thought that players did have a good relationship with him, like just from the way they had spoken about him in media conferences and things like that. But the more that I've uncovered as the situation has progressed, the more unsurprised I am.
Right.
So yeah, I was like initially shocked. I was also shocked because I didn't really expect them to do anything about it. It's like I didn't really have any expectations or anything like that. And so I guess that's when things happen, right? You don't have any expectations. And so that's why I think also, you know, speaking of expectations, I think with the Liberty, this like the past season, it became they did so bad last season that anything they do this season is amazing. But now we actually, I feel like that's just become an excuse for them. And so I think, you know, if you want to become competitive, then it's time to start having expectations for what this team needs to be. And one of that could be maybe bringing in a coach, Sandy Brondello, maybe. Phoenix Mercury parted ways with her as well. And I think that shocked me even more than the Liberty news. She was there for 8 years. They have championship experience. They literally just made the finals. In case you like need any more proof. Her contract expired. The Mercury didn't renew it. They said they wanted a fresh voice. She's expressed interest in coming to New York. I know she said she still wants to stay in the WNBA. What do you think about this?
I mean, it's hard to like know without knowing like her full relationship with all the players and everything like that. But we haven't heard anything in terms of like, oh, she was just a dick to everybody and she like everyone hated her. We haven't heard much of that. It's just interesting that coming off a finals appearance where a team like, you know, like they struggled for a little bit of the season, but they found their footing in the second half. They really put it together in the playoffs and got to the finals and then lost in the finals to a team that was, you know, even more of a role than they were, but also were without one of their key players in Kia Nurse. They just started to, you know, they were more beat up by the end of the season. I'm a little surprised, but at the same time, I guess they want it. It's just this is a risky proposition for a team that needs to win a championship, like in the next couple seasons, while Diana Taurasi is still here. Not that they're not going to be a contender without her, but that's kind of their goal with all like these last couple years. Is okay, we're adding these players to help get Diana a championship before she retires. Whenever that be, whether that's in the next 2 years or we talked about in the next 10 years, maybe. So that's clearly where they're going, and it's a risky proposition when you have a coach who is like, you know, took your team to a championship, got you right there, and now you're bringing in somebody new who could be worse, who could be a worse coach, who could be a worse fit. Like the players might not like them as much. You have to be really confident, and they must be. You have to be really confident that there's somebody out there that you know you can get or think you can get that's going to be better than she was. It's a little surprising they haven't filled that vacancy yet because of like, if you make that change, you better be confident there's someone out there. And if you haven't got it yet, I'm now questioning how confident you were and how confident you are about getting someone that was going to be better than Sandy Brondello. So I'm very curious to see where they go with this because this could be a very risky move for a team, again, that needs to win a championship in the next couple seasons.
Exactly. And I think, you know, the organization saying that they wanted a fresh voice to me is very interesting because you have Diana Taurasi in the locker room. You have Brittany Griner in the locker room. Like, these are not new voices on your team.
It's not
which
like
I find very interesting.
Yeah. It's almost a situation where, like, were they getting tired of her? Were they getting, like, was Diana Taurasi in particular getting tired of her? Brittany Griner's been there for multiple seasons, obviously. Was she getting a little tired of her? Did Skylar Diggins-Smith not like her as much? It's an interesting question because that's the only reason you're making a move is if your core players didn't like her, or because if your core players liked her, There's not much to quibble about. They just made the championship. The players liked her. Again, we don't know, but by all accounts, there were no like huge troubles in the locker room. So those two things happened. The relationship were there, and the on-court product was fine. I'm curious as to what the move was and who comes in afterwards, because it's going to be, you got some big shoes to fill here.
100%. And then real quick, we're going to talk about the schedule because they released it 6 months early for reasons that I don't understand. And
because WNBA, that's all the reason you need.
You're right. But there is like a matchup I want to talk about. Sparks versus Sky.
Oh, not Fever Mystics. Not number 1 and number 2. Okay, I got you.
Sorry to all the Fever fans. Anyway, it's the first time that Candace is going to face her old team healthy and as a defending champion. However, they are not doing the ring ceremony on opening night, as many people thought they would. They said they would do it in the first couple of games. I find that very interesting because if you're going to put these two teams against one another, then why wouldn't you have Candace receiving her ring in front of Derek Fisher? You know what I mean?
And why just in general, like every team does their ring ceremony on their first home game of the season. Why? Like imagine
they didn't really give a reason, did they?
This is a personal story for me. I went to Milwaukee for the Bucks' first game of the season so I could see the ring ceremony. Imagine, without me knowing, I'm just going to that game. They're like, you know what? We're playing the Nets, but we're not going to do the ring ceremony tonight. We'll do it a couple games later when we come back home. When we play like the Pacers. Just why? Why are you doing that? Like, just do it first game of the season. It's the first game of the season. All the anticipation's there for your defending champ, beating the defending champs. People are showing up to that game thinking, maybe they know now that it won't be the ring ceremony, but at least, like, why? It just doesn't make any sense. Like, even if you take out the Sparks and Derek Fisher, just take that, move it out, replace it with, like, the Dream. Like, they're playing Atlanta first game. Who cares? Random game. Sky versus, Dream first game of the season for whatever reason. Why would you not do the ring ceremony on opening night? It has to be because it's against the Sparks. That's the only reason. They're not going to say it, but that has to be the only reason because there's no other reason for you not to do a ring ceremony on opening night as just like a principle. Like, it just doesn't make any sense for a team not to do it. Like, it's almost like you're turning it into like a random giveaway night in the middle of the season. It's like, here's a bobblehead. No, we're just kidding. We're getting championship rings.
Yeah. I mean, you said it all. Like, that is a solid rant, and you're 100% right. Like, I can't add anything else to that. I just had a bunch of question marks in my notes because it's honestly just confusing to me.
It doesn't make any sense. That's the only reason. And like, you're the WNBA, lean into it. Be petty. Like, every league should be lean into it. Every league needs to lean into being petty. But like, this in particular is like a great storyline for opening night. Candace Parker getting a ring against her former team, against Derek Fisher. That's perfect. Instead, you just have Candace Parker versus her former team on opening night. No rings, nothing. And like, you made it even more clear that it was because of that, because you're not doing the rings on opening night. You're like even more leaning into like, we don't want to do it against the former team because X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Silly is what it is. Silly,
and it happened on a Monday. And then, like, the last little thing, the Commissioner's Cup is back. I saw a bunch of the games were labeled as Commissioner Cup games,
and still no one has any idea how it works.
Yeah, I mean, just gonna have to like retweet my article from last season. What is the Commissioner's Cup and how does it work?
It made it even worse that like the players themselves didn't know.
Yeah.
Or like, this was a Commissioner's Cup game? Nice. But this game tomorrow that we're playing isn't? Okay. Interesting. I don't know what the criteria is for a Commissioner's Cup game. The players were just like us.
Yeah, too much drama. There's too much drama. So we're going to steer away from that a little bit. We'll go towards something heartwarming. Coming up next and last, I guess, we'll have a very special segment where I got the chance to speak to Asia Wilson about her partnership with Dick's Sporting Goods, which is a very wholesome story. But first, because I know everybody missed this, I'm going to fangirl over Built Bar for a little bit. So Built Bar has so many delicious flavors. I can't believe I'm still here talking to you guys about how many delicious flavors there are. But if you don't know them by now, and I feel like I should be holding like a quiz for viewers if they don't know the flavors by now, but there's coconut, cherry, raspberry, mint brownie, double chocolate, salted caramel, strawberry, orange, cookies and creams, German chocolate too. My favorite flavor, you know what? Like, that should be a question on the quiz. What is Crina's favorite flavor?
Listen, we've been gone for 2 months. We can't do that.
Okay, you're right. You're right. It's raspberry for future reference. And if you haven't tried all the flavors, you can get a mix box where you'll get 2 of each of the 9 flavors. They're not only really good, but they're really healthy. They have 17 to 18 grams of protein, 130 calories, only 4 to 5 grams of sugar, and net carbs. They're amazing flavors, all tasty, all healthy. It's the official protein bar of the U.S. track and field team. And if you go to built.com and use promo code LOCKED15, you'll get 15% off of your order. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com.
Now, Crina, right around now it's betting season. Everyone's trying to get that. We got all the sports, basically all the 4 major North American sports leagues basically going on at once. Not the MLB, but they're coming back soon if their lockout gets resolved. But BetOnline has you covered all season for every sport, for more props, odds, and lines than ever before as football season in particular continues the march to the playoffs. BetOnline remains your #1 spot for all the sports action this season. Head to our new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code LOCKEDON to receive your bonus. From basketball, NBA season, they're postponing games, but games are still being played. Football, they're also moving games around, but games are still being played. NHL, same deal. Boxing, hey, maybe you would have bet on Jake Paul knocking out Tyron Woodley. I mean, I would have assumed that would have happened. UFC, there's stuff going on all the time in UFC. Right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet all of your sports. BetOnline, where the game starts.
And speaking of betting, after you listen to us, go make your second listen Locked On Bets, which is your daily one-stop shop, wow, for all of your gambling needs. Locked On Bets is hosted by your boy Q with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. It's free and available on all platforms. All right, now the moment everybody's been waiting for, the interview with A'ja Wilson. So I'm going to play that right now. I hope you guys enjoy it. I truly really loved learning about this initiative that she did, and watching the looks on those kids' faces when she surprised them was super heartwarming. And I think it's something that we need to be reading in the news cycle with everything that's going on in the world. And so, yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the sit down with A'ja.
Yeah, I think I've always been a fan of big sporting goods, of course, and when my agent brought to me an opportunity to get back to the youth in Vegas, I definitely was never going to pass it up. And I was just so happy and amazed at what they were doing within their foundation to give children an opportunity to play sports, to be active, to be outside and have fun and connections with other children, because I know that's how I got started, and that's where it all starts. So it was not any hesitation when it came to partnering with the Foundation Sports Matter program.
Yeah, so just maybe dive into that a little bit more. Like, what kind of initiatives did you have when you were kind of getting into sports and basketball, or did you know of anyone else who did?
I mean, my biggest thing was just trying it, having that opportunity to try it. And it was actually very heartwarming just to see these young kids get that basketball and that gifting bag and little things like that as a mouth guard. I think that's where it all starts. And for me and my initiative into sports, that's how it started for me. My dad put a basketball in my hand and we went to go have some fun. And then after that, I got a basketball goal. And so, in sports, it is all about your equipment and looking cool. So to have a company like Dick's go out there and give back to the community and me be alongside of them, it's truly special.
And what do you hope that these children will take away from this opportunity when you've helped them to surprise them with those resources?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is just taking that chance on sport and having fun while doing it. I think we get caught up in the game and the wins and the losses and good play, bad play, but at the end of the day, it's a game, and you're supposed to have fun while doing it. So I hope that the young kids that got that gift today can go out there and have some fun and form some friendships and go from there.
Yeah, and overall, do you think that basketball is a sport that is more accessible than other sports to kids? And how much more work do we need to further progress youth in sports and even in basketball specifically?
Yeah, I think basketball really is something that's very accessible to young kids. You could just really just get an orange basketball. It doesn't even have to be the right size, and a crate or a basketball hoop, and you have a game. And I think for us to continue to help our sport grow, we have to make it welcoming. I think, like I said, we get caught up in wins and losses and scores this, but at the end of the day, you got to have fun while doing it and loving it. So I think that's the biggest thing, is showing these young kids that it's more than just the wins and the losses. It's about just having fun.
And lastly, what is the importance of having various platforms kind of bringing these initiatives to the public and having more people learn about it?
Oh, it's very important. I mean, that's what makes our world go, is when people have information and are accessible to great things to help, especially the next generation of these young people, allowing them to be themselves, allowing them to find themselves. And I think it's very important when you have companies that take an initiative in their communities, in our backyard sometimes, to help grow the game of sport.
Okay, Locked On Women's Basketball has you covered throughout the week, so make sure to come back here for daily episodes until Friday. If you have any thoughts on today's discussions, or if you just want to tell us that you missed us, make sure to reach out on social media. You can now see Bradshaw's eye rolls. You can also follow us on
My
Twitter.
eye rolls.
Yes.
Your eye rolls.
Follow us on Twitter at LockedOnWBB, myself at Crina MM, and Bradshaw at OMG Bradshaw. I also posted the interview, a small snippet of it with Asia on Twitter if you'd like to see some of that. Of course, make sure you subscribe to Locked On Women's Basketball wherever you get your podcasts, and on YouTube. We're on YouTube, folks. So you can get the latest episodes as soon as they come out. And that wraps up this edition of Locked On Women's Basketball. Now go check out Locked On NBA, because we are in the middle of a very messy season. Have a great day. See you tomorrow.